So what is a buy and hold?
You buy it and then you hold it.
Pretty simple question.
Hard
right?
concept, I know.
Buy and hold refers to a property you purchase with the intent of owning for a long period of time versus a flip or rehab, which typically you hold for 6 to 12 months, otherwise known as an income property or a rental property. So go ahead.
The consideration for buy and hold properties are different than that of a fix and flip, but several things are the same. How much free cash do you have? How much free cash do you have to buy, renovate, hold, and renovate the property? Market yourself to find deals. So cash goes into all of it. You got to have cash to renovate the property. You got to have cash to buy the property. You got to have cash to find the property. Sometimes, you know, you're sending out mailers and things like that. So you got to take all that into effect and count that into your ROI. What is a long-term strategy for real estate investing? You can go for income, cash flow, or both. Sometimes you can throw in appreciation there. I know over in the West Coast, they definitely do buy and holds for a completely different reason than we do. I mean, they'll do negative cash flow just to hold on for that appreciation because they're gaining tens of thousands every month.
And the one thing I can say is you never know when like a code anomaly is going to happen. So like we bought properties 5 years ago and I was like, this is never going to appreciate. They're just going to be, I paid $50,000 for it. So it's going to be worth $50,000 in 5 years. But the cash flow has been really great, so I'm not worried about the appreciation. But then you have something like COVID happen and the housing shortage, and it's like we just completed a BRRRR, and my value was quadruple what I paid for it 4 years ago. And I was like, oh. So that's why I always say it's never a bad time to buy because you never know what's going to happen. But different markets have different strategies. In my opinion, Northern Virginia, it's very rare. In now's market, you're going to find a property that you can buy and hold and rent out immediately and do positive cash flow, right? But the appreciation in Nova, because Nova's in such a bubble, we have military, government workers, you know, there's always people coming and going, so that market's kind of protected from some of the other smaller markets. But the appreciation in the Nova market is much higher than the appreciation, I'd say, in like Roanoke. So you have to figure out where you want to buy, and that's not a question to ask yourself. That's going to be on 2 slides later. Paul, do you look for anything? What's your strategies when you?
Well, my strategy really is for long term. When we get into the paperwork, I'm going to pass out here in a little bit, and you'll pass out. I'm going to show you exactly why I want to hold, and how it benefits me, and how maybe it'll benefit you. There's a thing called an amortization table, and mortgages are front loaded with interest. So the longer you hold it, you'll see soon, the more you pay off. And while you're paying it off, it's going to go up in value, and the difference is equity.
It'll probably still catch it if you just hook it. You're right next to him.
I think we got it.
And then another thing to look at when it comes to that is just your risk tolerance. You know,
I got 2 videos next, so I'll show you that'll
yeah.
prove a point. I think your tolerance to deal with rehabs, contractors, tenants, buyers, agents. You have to have patience. You have to, not every house and tenant and everything is class A, renters pay on time, nothing breaks. You know, so you have to have patience and you have to keep thinking about the long term, right? So for instance, I got this text message from a tenant at 5:30 in the morning, right? The main water pipe, a water pipe burst in the basement, and she's like, hey, there's water coming down. I turned the main water off. I don't know where it's coming from. And I was like, oh my gosh. 5:30 in the morning. So I live 4 hours away, right? So I can't just get in the car and go. And so, but I have a team, people down here. I call him, I call Justin, I call certain, you know, it's important to have a team where you're at. But that's something that's like a risk, right? My entire year of profit now is gone from that one repair. But in 5 years, actually, this is a house that I BRRRR'd. So I will get the numbers of that, but I'm happy I kept it and fixed it because, okay, I fixed it. I have no positive cash flow this month or this year, but 5 years from now, I'll be happy that I did it. That's one.
This next one's really good.
I'm a great landlord, I'm just saying. My tenants love me. This guy was older. I talked to him about once a week. He used to collect rent for me when I first started. I never knew anything was wrong. Like, I never knew anything, okay? My contractor went to his room to fix something, and he took me this video. Hold on. This is just a disaster.
Gabby already knows.
You ready?
She's crying over there.
Look at this.
Oh God. We are
He sent me this video, and he sent me this video. I called the tenant, and I was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "This is why you're always sick. You're probably eating these things at night. Like, how are you living like this?" He's not my tenant anymore. He was older. He got committed at the VA, and so it is what it is, right? But yeah, imagine that. Now that house is spotless now. Mm-hmm. It cost me a couple $1,000s to. I've owned this house for 5 years. Never had this issue.
Does a property management company have that, or do you manage it yourself?
This is a rooming house, so I had to work with the state, and we room help people coming out of returning citizens, people coming out of prison.
Okay.
But I inherited him. Mm-hmm. He'd been living there for 15 years before I bought the place.
He was the property manager.
He was the property manager at the time for 5 years. I mean, the first 4 years, and he was great. Like, nothing was wrong. But then within this year, right?
Yeah.
He just got older and went kind of crazy, and then that. So yeah.
There's a little bit of risk.
Again, this isn't anyone's fault. It's not I mean, it is what it is, right? But this is something that this is real life. This you don't see on HGTV. Right? So this is something that you just have to prepare yourself. It's like, hey, this might happen. What am I going to do? So I fixed it, right? We paid $30,000 for this house 5 years ago. I can put $50,000 into it now and kind of update it, and it'll be worth $170,000. So this has no mortgage on it. This is like what I call our like code red house. Like something happens and my day job sucks and we can't sell any houses and no rent's coming in and I can't make my mortgage payment next month. I can call it We Buy Houses and dump this for, I don't know, 50 grand, 30 grand, whatever. I can
more than that.
I don't know. I'm just saying this is like my safety net that if something happens in my life, we can just dump it because there's no mortgage on it and just get quick cash. So yeah.
So a lot of things to look into when you're buying rental properties is where do you want to buy at? You know, you've got different places all over Roanoke, all over the country. You know, you've got the lower class area, you got C class areas, and then you got really high end stuff, A class areas, and you're going to invest in each one for different reasons. Another one is how long do you want to keep it? You know, be intentional with your plan. If you only want to keep it for 3 years because you want to get that equity, get out, dump that, and then in 3 years invest it in something bigger and just keep on building from there. Or if you want to hold on to it until you retire, and that's your retirement plan. But you want to have a plan in place and follow it. How will you manage? Property managers do a great job. There's a lot of them out there that don't do a great job. So when you're trying to find a management company, you want to find a really good one, like this one right here. Or if you're going to manage it yourself, maybe your intent is to manage it for your first 5 properties, 10 properties, because it's not all that hard to do that. But once you get up to 20 or 30 properties, do you really want all of that stress all the time? So that's when you kick it to a property management company who can handle it.
You can talk to a property management company and tell them, hey, listen, I know your management fee is between 10 and 15%, but they have a much larger market. You can say, hey, you can have this rental if you can get me your management fee on top of the rent I expect. I bet you they can do it.
As a management company, do you ever help people figure out if what they're looking at is going to be a good deal? So if you were to take it on, you want obviously something that's going to be have cash flow and be profitable. So yeah, I never thought about having a management company do that, but is that something you ever have? Where you
we get investors calling all the time. Matter of fact, Daniel just texted me a little while ago because the town that I'm in, he said, hey Paul, there's a house, a HUD house. How much is it worth? What can I get for rent? I own a management company, so I was able to tell them both. I also do sales, so we got guys like this doing it all the time. Mm-hmm. And it was an area that he doesn't work as much, so.
Yeah, up in Radford.
It would be like a pain, but
no, it's if you know the market that well. I'm 28 years in the area. Literally, I know the streets.
Yeah, you probably didn't even have to look it up.
No,
you just knew.
Look it up. I just knew. Yeah, that is worth 169,000, I can get 1,000 a month in rent. Like I responded to his text within 30, 45
Yeah.
seconds.
And I mean, I could do the same thing in Roanoke, and then I'm sure he could do the same thing up in Potomac.
Yeah, and a house in Roanoke. I got
Nova.
guys.
Potomac is Maryland. I'm in Nova.
Nova, then.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's all the same up there.
It's not. It's definitely not.
Yeah, we toured a lot of areas this past weekend. All right, rate of return. You kind of want to have an idea on what you want to get on a cash on cash return, or just a total rate of return, because cash isn't your only option. You've got appreciation, you got loan buy down.
And we have
And
real examples of cash on cash. Sorry, I'm interrupt. Cash on cash returns coming up soon of actual homes that we own.
And you may have to adjust that because, I mean, during COVID, I mean, you could have a great cash on cash return. You can find deals doing 15 to 20% cash on cash return. Now with interest rates, you know, I'm perfectly fine with taking a 10% cash on cash return. And then rate of appreciation. Where are you going to invest? Because some places appreciate more than others.
Very nice explanation. Both buy and hold renovations are they're a lot easier, right? You want to look at lower middle market properties with neighborhoods, low end properties that attract troublesome tenants and often require more maintenance. What? We prefer lower middle market properties plus neighborhoods. Yeah, lower middle, not very low. Sorry. I just did this a week ago and I still can't. And right now, high-end properties are hard to find prices or rents that support the prices. There's still deals out there. You know, the last 3 that we bought were all on market, are long-term rentals, all on market. There's still good deals out there to find. And I tell a lot of people, it's a big math problem. I don't care what the rate is because I'm not paying it. So the last one we closed on was like 7.85, but my cash flow is still like $300 a month. So I'm like, okay, perfect. The down payment stays the same. Go ahead.
When that happens, when you get like an investment property, you can still refinance with the tenant in the house.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So again, you can refinance tenant in a house. Still refinance your own house. They don't. You just have to.
Prefer tenants in the house.
Actually, and we'll get into that. Yeah, there's a slide that has that. Yeah, prefer tenant because it's already rented. You already have a track record of it being rented, so it's easier to refinance it that way. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So when you're buying an investment property, don't worry about the rates. That really don't play a big role in it. Just look at the numbers. It's just, again, a big math problem. Real estate's one of the only industries, I think, in my opinion, that every number that you can possibly need to know is public information. You don't have to sneak around, and it's not secret, right? You know what the last person paid for it, what the person before that paid for it. You can run comps and get a general idea of what it might be worth fixed up. You can look at rental rates in the area, call an agent and have them, run rental rates. Like, what do you think it's going to rent for? You can go on Zillow and say, look for rentals and go in the area you're looking at and just see what things are renting for. So every number you could possibly want is there. So just see if it fits and see if it matches your threshold of how much money you want to make. I don't want to make less than $350 a month. That's just me. Some people are happy with making $150 a month. So just figure out if it works. That was a tangent, I'm sorry.
All right, fix what's broken. These are not gut job renovations of kitchens and baths. So basically when you're renovating for rental properties, you're not thinking that you're going to have to sell it right out of the gate as soon as you're done. So you want to kind of dial it down on all the granite and the finest things, because you don't want to over renovate it, because you're just going to put people in there and it's not their house and they may not treat it as nice as you would.
It's actually better to sell it your second year. The first year you have short-term gains, taxes. Talk to your tax person. But if you keep it over a year, you have long-term gains. So you save some interest, some taxes, depending on how long you keep it.
I put a nice laminate countertop, brand new, on a tenant's house, and like within 3 days, there was like knife marks in it. I'm like, you're cutting on it. Put a chopping board down. So yeah, just reuse what you can. You don't need to make it beautiful. You're not living in it, right? And see what other rentals around the area look like. That's like when we do our flips. I look at the market and say, okay, what did this house down the street sell for? What does it look like? Does it have granite countertops? No, and it's still sold for X amount. All right, well, I can put granite countertops and maybe sell it for more, or I can just put the cheaper one and it's going to be fine. So same thing with rentals. You know, you're not living in it. Look at the area you're in. Look at the class of tenant you want, and that'll determine how much money you need to renovate. This is one that we own. This was it before. The carpet was dirty. There was a fireplace. I'd not recommend. Well, depends where it's at. But this area, this is the Northwest. Like I don't want my tenants lighting a fire or anything like that. So we took the fireplace out, closed it up, painted it, put all new floors in. We patched this. That's the old picture. The roof was older. Actually, there was one leak on the side of the whole house. It went from roof to floor, or roof to main floor. And the inspector was like, it's just one hole at the top. Once you fix that hole, the rest of it that's what it's coming from. So we actually didn't re-roof the house. We just put another layer of shingles over top, because you can put 2 layers of shingles over, or you can have the original roof and then put 1 more layer of shingles over top of the original roof without having to replace the whole roof. So it went from a $15,000 roof to a $2,800 roof. Still brand new, just new shingles. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
Is it a new
layer?
Is it a new roof?
The roofers will try to talk you into tearing the old shingles off.
Luckily, yeah.
It was because they make more money off
It
of
was a
it.
huge price difference. I was like, just re-roof it. It's fine. I'm not living in it. This is a 5-bedroom, 3,200 square foot, 3,200 square foot house. I have a family of 1 single mom with 5 kids living in that one. So yeah, this is just basic renovations, right? The whole renovation job cost us like $2,000, and most of it was putting the floors in. This is another one. That's Daniel.
Yeah, we put some sweat equity into that one.
The floors were really bad. They were all tiles. There were this like white tile here. So we just went through and did we chip? No, it wasn't tile. It was laminate.
Yeah,
we
it
just
was all laminate.
Yeah, we
I don't remember taking tile out.
no, we rolled up the laminate, and then the subfloor, the plumbing was, this floor was real weak. So we did all this ourselves in 2 days. So we cut the subfloor out. This was actually, you told us how to do this. Put new subflooring in. You can kind of see it's all moldy and stuff here. And then this floor was like this when we bought it, and then we just put some LVP. I think it was like a couple $100. Went and bought it. Did it all ourselves. So yeah, nothing crazy. It's just to kind of make the tenants a little bit happier. Like, oh, new owners coming in. Are they going to be like the old owners? We just let it kind of go to waste. Like, no, we're going to help you fix what we can, and then
we don't want to be slumlords, because being a slumlord is actually pretty difficult. I mean, you just get calls all the time because the houses are trashed, and I don't want to have to deal with that. So I'd much rather fix everything before I go in.
yeah, just fix what you can. You don't have to fix.
You get a better quality tenant too. They're not going to call you.
Yeah, and they're happy.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, we're going to let you,
We're gonna let you take this away.
the
Go
property
ahead.
management portion away, since you're the professional on that.
Yeah, so my property management company charges anywhere between 8 and 15%, depending on like if you're coming to me and I have one property, can you please manage this? It's going to be 15%. If you have multiple properties, the rate will start coming down. And our market reach is so much larger than what like an individual can do on Craigslist or Facebook ads and stuff like that. We generally, like if you approach me, say, hey, Paul, can your company manage this? I manage about 4,500 rental properties. And if you come to me and say, hey, Paul, I'll let you manage this if you can at least get your property management fee out of it. I'm like, try. And so, I'll just, usually they're tickled to death. Usually I'm getting way more than the 10 to 15%. I'm like a lot more. And so you're getting your money. It's not costing you a penny. It's being professionally managed. You're not going to get a roach issue because we're sending people in every 6 months. Just inspect it every time we love when there's maintenance issues, because all our contractors know while you're there, because you got permission, you're there to fix the leaky sink. Also, while you're in the house, kind of take a look around and say, hey, I gotta go shut the water valve off. While you're in the process of doing that, look around, take your phone, snap a picture, send it to us. Property management companies are worth their weight in gold. I'm a little biased there.
And not all property management companies will do that.
No, not all are the same.
No. So do you hand?
You were in a different area.
Well, I'm in the Blacksburg, Radford, Christiansburg area, so I don't know how the property management companies do in the Roanoke area.
Well, we're planning on growing a lot in the Roanoke, so we'll see if we can make that property management portion grow with it.
I've managed a couple like higher end homes around Huntington Hills Golf Course. Great tenants, but they also pay $4,000 a month. They hired their own interior designers, and they texted me and said, "Hey, I had a maintenance issue. I just went ahead and called and took care of it." But, you know, so
That's a good tenant.
like
Those are the tenants but you got to buy in Hunting Hills.
NRV Property Management.
So how do you handle background checks, marketing?
We use a software program called Appfolio. It costs about $10,000 a month for us to keep, and that is like a little genie in a box. So we tell it to do what we want, and it does a background check, it does a credit check, it does a criminal background check, and then I have 20-year-olds love to stalk on Facebook and stuff. So my receptionist is young, and so after go through all that, and we just check to see if they're just weird, you know. So you know, just get those. There's no quicker way to get another tenant out just by having you got a 20-year-old girl living in a unit, and the guy next door is just a creep, you know. Mm-hmm. And then she moves out, and then I just got a creep left. And so I have a 20-year-old girl that just stalks, and what she does, that she answers the phone, she stalks people. And if it passes her, then we're good.
Do y'all have any questions about property management? Anybody?
When you say, obviously, half or 1 month's rent turnover, that's for every door, and then 8 to 12% off of whatever you're charging for rent or.
Well, every property management company is different.
This one's pretty generic. I just put yeah.
And the property management companies you talk to, this is kind of proprietary. Different ones charge different amounts. I don't. I charge a flat management fee, and if I don't rent it, I don't get it. Yeah.
And usually the turnover fee comes from the way I've done it. It comes from the first month's rent and the security deposit, or first month's rent.
Yeah.
So when it doesn't technically come out of your pocket, it just gets.
A lot of management companies charge you a percentage plus the first month's rent.
Okay.
So it's pretty standard. I haven't adapted that. I do well enough without it, but there's a lot of them that do that. Your area might charge that, and that's pretty standard.
What's the hands-on portion of the owner of the house has to participate in with the property?
It depends on what you negotiate with the property manager. I have a lot of people that are contractors. They got into the business, started doing their own property management. They did all the work themselves and just got burnt out. They don't want to manage the people side of it no more, but there's contractors just don't like, some contractors just don't like people, you know. so they turned that part over to me, but I said, Paul, we'll give you, instead of 15%, we'll pay you 10%, and I just want all the repair stuff to go through me, and then I'll let you know if I want to fix it or not. And it could be any variation of that. But you can do, Paul, we want you to manage it, but any repairs over $500, check with me first, or whatever number that is. We have some people that don't want to be called over smoke detector battery. They put 0 and they just fix it. I trust you.
Nice. Anybody else?
Does your management team have you guys have to go to people, contractors to fix or do any repairs and stuff like that? Or
Yeah, we have agents that work for me. Like I have a number of realtors that are property managers, but their job is as a property manager to manage property, and they have a portfolio of properties. They may have up to 200 properties per agent. That agent that manages that portfolio will hire generally the same contractors, because that contractor, houses have their own personality, right? And contractors get to understand the personality. Like, Paul, this is the 3rd time I fixed this sink. The next time I think we need to put a snake down that pipe to see if there's any. If you had 3 different contractors, all 3 didn't know about that sink pipe. And so it's good to have the same contractor going over and over again.
Plus, when you find a good one, you tend to hold on.
Yeah, so the agent that runs a portfolio might just hire one contractor for this group of properties, another one for that group, just so that those contractors understand what's going on with this house. Every house has their own quirks.
One of the biggest things that I can say, I don't care if you have 1, 2, 10, you should get a property manager. I was managing our first 10 from Nova, and this past this year, when it was really cold in Roanoke, all 10 of them called me in one day. And I was, first world problems, I was in Disney with my family. So, and they all called me in one day. And I called my partner the next day and I was like, we're selling all of them. I'm done. I don't want to deal with it anymore. And it wasn't frozen pipes. It was just like, I have no heat. I said, okay, well, I'll Venmo you money to go get a space heater. He goes, oh, but we have no power. And I'm like, so what do you want me to do? You can't turn the power on. I don't know what to tell you. So it wasn't issues that anyone could deal with. It's just all of Roanoke was out of power, I think, for a couple of days.
It was a rough time.
And it was cold. And so I told my partner, I was like, we're selling all of these. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Getting all these calls for weird things that they can just be adults and fix themselves. I'm sorry. So then I hired a property management company, and
evictions are easier for you us too. Like, I mean, we don't have nearly as much evictions as someone trying to do it themselves. But when we do have an eviction like this last one, I think over 4,000 properties. I think we had 4 last year or something. It's just really small amount.
That's super
But
impressive.
one of them, they're both couples, like just doing great until they weren't. They got divorced, and they needed both their income to pay for property. So it was just an eviction because they couldn't afford it. But when we go to court because the judge knows us, they just wave us up in front of everybody. We're in and out. All the people that manage themselves, they're in there all day long.
I can attest to that.
All day. And because we've never had a case where the judge didn't agree with us, he just lets the tenant talk, and then I say 2 words, and okay, guilty. Yeah.
And
just like when you get a ticket to the cops.
And the other thing is, I've had the same tenants for 5 years. I haven't had money turnover, and me personally managing it has become emotionally invested in their lives. You know, my one tenant, I've seen her have a baby, and now it's 5 years old. They fall behind in rent. It's like, okay, no problem. We'll just forgive it. And I've forgiven tens of thousands of dollars because I can't, you feel emotionally attached to them. The evictions are especially hard because you're like, I know their life situations. Like, where are they going to go? But then you have to realize you're not running a charity. Like, you have a business. My
staff won't let me show properties anymore because they say I cause them too much of a headache. Because I say yes to everybody.
But people see kindness.
You're not the one that deals with it. We do.
People will see kindness as weakness and then take advantage of it. Not everyone, but they will. So getting a property manager gives you that level of separation between your tenant and you, and your property management company sets the precedence up front of, we're having late fees, you're not paying late, this is how it is. Whereas if you do it yourself, it's hard. For me, very hard. So I would, first step, property management.
Yeah, that was a hard lesson for me as well. I would just give and give and give. I'd hear a sob story, and then I'd be like, oh, okay, well, you can pay next month then. And then they did it the first time, and then they just kept on doing it and doing it, doing it. And I learned the lesson the hard way and lost a lot of money and a lot of headaches. But now I'm a little bit more strict and don't really play with a lot of games. Yeah,
this is a very important factor. Go ahead. So it's another company that he used to work with. And they've been doing it. No, they're fine. They're fine. It's gravity. But they're in
Blacksburg.
They're not in Roanoke.
No.
Mm-hmm. No, they still do.
Sorry.
No, you're right. No, they still do. That's who I used. I asked him. I didn't know anyone here, and I didn't want to use just Google property managers in Roanoke. So when he was working at his old brokerage, he said, "Hey, we do it here." So I used him, and I know the property manager. So it has been fine. No problems. Anything else?
You guys have issues with listing property for rent on like Facebook or other social media?
I haven't had any turnover in 4 years.
What kind of issues you asking about?
Well, I just recently sold a house, and it was listed with a realtor friend of mine from the lake. And while I was having windows replaced, the lady came by and said she'd talk to the owner or talk to the realtor, knew the realtor's name, and they were going to move in tomorrow.
That happens a lot.
Oh yeah, we talk. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of fraud going on right now.
The officer said, "Go ahead and take the signs down."
because my realtor sign was there, my mortgage sign was there. And I've got, game cameras on my property when I'm flipping them. And so I know when anybody goes by there. And so my Windows guy called me up right away because he knew something wasn't right. And sure enough, this fraudster on Facebook listed it for rent, took all the realtor pictures, took everything.
There's nothing you can
So
do
then he
about
went
it.
to Walmart, Western Union, the guy like $500, which is too low of a deposit anyway, which should have been a red flag for her.
Yeah.
But that lady's out that $500 and I hung out at the house that night to make sure no one else moved in.
We get calls monthly. People scan realtor.com. Houses that I only have for rent, I'll just list the house and sold it. All of a sudden, somebody will say, "Hey, when can I come get the keys?" I'm like, "Keys for what?" And they'll say an address, and I have a lot. I'm like, I don't think I managed that one. Do I manage that one? I call, "Hey, do we manage this house?" Like, no, I don't know. What are we talking about? And so it was just ripped off and use a management company's name. The rent was sent off to probably Africa. It's just done. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just going to be fraud.
Wow. I was interviewing brokers to work as a real estate agent. The one in Salem, the green sign real estate group. He said that the month that I was doing it, that somebody actually sold the house all digitally and was coming in to buy the house, not just rent. But the scam happens even in the marketplace.
Yeah, I've heard
That's why we
of that
send
too.
out wire fraud notices on every transaction. It says, do not wire to anyone at any time unless you confirm with.
It's going to happen if you have rental properties enough. It'll eventually you'll get that frantic phone call and you just have to say, "Sorry, here's 911 number for 911." and the police aren't going to do anything about it either.
Yeah.
Ian?
For the like big ticket items, do you guys replace those as well, or is there like a fee, for
Well, on big ticket items, like how big is the big?
like the roof, like HVAC? So
Well, and there's a big ticket item. We have to get permission first from the owner. But if it's a $5,000 roof, we're just not going to. Hey, by the way, owner, we just replaced your roof. You did? I said, no, we're gonna on big ticket items. Like if it's like our management agreement has like a little space in there that says how much the dollar amount has to be before we call them for permission. And it's in there. Each owner fills out their comfort level that they'll give me before I have to call them. It does not have to do with if it's an emergency repair, a hot water heater goes out. It doesn't matter what that says. My first job is to protect the house. I'll go protect the house no matter what the dollar is. I'll fix it.
Yeah. They don't pay for the repairs. The repairs usually come out of the rent or if they have a card on file.
Yeah, but that dollar amount, for $5,000, we'll get permission first.
Yeah, so any repairs need to be done. It's still the owner pays for it. But if property manager manages the problem, they'll call the contractor or call whoever. But if it's a $400 repair and their max is $500, you just take it out of the rent.
Yeah.
And they give you a receipt.
You all get any kind of benefit out of that for coordinating it? Any kind of percentage of?
Yeah, 8 to 15%.
Yeah, it depends on what it is. Like sometimes there's a handling fee. It's a small handling. We charge it's like $50. On bigger ticket.
But that'd be just like a home warranty you call and there's a service fee, so it's the same.
Yeah, it's just because I got to pay someone to go out and check out the roof, and I have to call 3 different contractors. It's just a little bit of headache, so I just need to pay a staff member to do that those hours.
And what's the preferred method for
Um,
handling Does it stay in the owner's name, or do you have?
No, we get all that information because if our owners don't, we have so many. There's no way for me to be able to cooperate with that many properties. Get all these different owners on the same page. Some of the owners won't care and not get the utilities turned over, and I'll have tenants moving in without power. It just becomes a nightmare. So, no, we won't even take the property over if the owner won't let us handle the utilities. It's just too much of a headache. I'm not going to do it.
And sometimes it depends on the property also. Like some duplexes are split up, but the water's not split up individually. So the owner still has to pay for that water bill.
Yeah.
Anything else? All right. On to the next one.
All right. Well,
All right, we covered that part. Good job. Head of the game.
So these are just examples of rentals that we've purchased and the numbers on them, so you can kind of get an idea of what we kind of look for. So I bought this in December, and I usually buy stuff with partners because I don't have any money and I don't like to use my own money. So I use OPM. I'm really good at that. And so my down payment was $29,000. I had to rent it for $1,650. My mortgage was $900. I pay my partner $250 a month from the rent. Property manager was $132. So my cash flow is $368 a month on that property. And the nice thing is, I just got it reassessed, and from December to now, it went up 60 grand. Well, not 60 grand. I have 60 grand worth of equity in it just in the past 7 months or 8 months. What are we in? September. 8 months.
Yep.
What area is this in, Chip, I'm asking?
It's in Northwest. Most of my properties are all in Northwest. It's cheap.
Yeah, cost of entry is pretty good. And this is one of mine. Also got it in last December. Acquisition was $134. Down payment $26,800. It rents for $1,745 a month. Mortgage is $980. I got private money for the renovation because here they had OSB as walls, and so I decided to fix that. And yeah, it was.
There's other pictures. We just didn't put them all in there.
So I borrowed money for the down payment and the renovations, and then I manage my own properties at the moment. So my cash flows right under $400 a month, and it would appraise for $200,000. So I got $92,000.
This one's in Southwest.
Yeah,
we were battling for this one. We called each other. I was like, "Yo, did you see that one on Joplin?" He was like, "I'm going to go look at it now." And I was like, "Do you want it?" He was like, "I don't know. Do you want it?" And I'm like,
and we bounce off.
Why don't you go look at it first and tell me if it's decent or not?
We bounce off one another all the time because he invests a ton down here. So he always calls me and he's like, "Hey, can you go look at this property for me?" And I'm like, "I already called dibs. I'm sorry."
I saw it first.
I'm sure that you did not tell me the walls were.
Oh yeah, word to the wise: you don't have to tell your.
You don't tell them everything. How old's the roof? Less than 15 years
The
old.
roof was fantastic. The roof was brand new.
The wiring was up there. But
I remember you telling me that. What's that last property?
Southwest.
Yeah, that was back behind Home Depot on 220.
And are y'all finding these on the market? Or
Yeah.
off?
These are all on.
Yeah, I think both of those were
Everyone
on
was
market.
on. Everyone I'm going to show you was all on market. None of these were off.
Now, did y'all, of course, it's none of my business, but you're comfortable.
No, we have everything. Yeah.
Did you end up paying full price, or did you have to haggle and over?
So hold on. You know how much a clicker costs, by the way? It's like $80. So I bought a mouse. So this one was listed at $160, and I offered them $130. I don't remember. Everything's renovated. There was one thing that was really crappy done, but the pictures didn't.
Is this the bathroom?
Yeah. You didn't see it in the picture, so I had to replace that. But I offered them $130. They countered back at $155. I came back at $145 with seller paying all closing, and they accepted it. I bought 3 properties in December this year. Well, I guess last year, December, January, because that's when the rates skyrocketed and everyone was like not buying. So homes were just sitting. So I'm like, well, I'm going to buy as much as I can.
November, December's great time to sell it.
No,
Yeah.
I don't know. It was listed.
Did someone go in and renovate it?
Oh yeah, the original. No, it was
Yeah,
owned by
it was-
it was owned by a person.
It was?
Yeah, but the picture, if you Google that address, was like aborted, like it was a bad house. So an investor did go in and renovate it. Yeah, yeah. Yes.
And then this next one,
So this was on market, and I negotiated that down, and the appraisal came back at 165 when I bought it.
and then this one was listed for a long time, way overpriced. I think they had it listed for 200 when it first started, and it just worked its way down. And I think I called the agent, told him I was going to bring him an offer, and I think it was priced at like 150 by then. And then he said, "Okay, but I just wanted to let you know we're doing a price drop today." And they price dropped it to 120. And so I think I went up against 10, 11 other investors and ended up with that price. And I had them cover closing costs, so I wouldn't have to come
That's
out
why I
of that
tell
pocket.
people, like, after doing those first ones, I'll offer anything. You don't know what they're going to accept. I mean, do you mind if we share what?
Please. Oh, yeah.
Theirs was a
No,
steal.
I
Yeah.
firmly believe that it's, you're definitely getting some good looks.
It helps.
Yeah.
So tell what was.
They saw it then. Yeah. 'Cause I remember like, Daniel was like, "Oh no, I had this kind of lowball," and I was like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna put at least 20,000 back into it." And he's like, "All right, I'll go." It comes back, he's like, "Yeah, they took it."
Well, so what was it listed at? And
175, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was 175, 175.
I had it favorited for like 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just was there. I was like, they got a price drop eventually. This has been the same price,
Yep.
and they paid all closing.
Yeah.
So $30,000 less, and plus an additional
Yeah.
3.
And it was a
Triplex.
VA loan, so no money out of pocket.
So Daniel, we want the reputation of the twins who live
Yeah.
So don't.
Yeah, that's the reputation of the yeah. Oh, the twins are here.
So don't be afraid just to throw something out there. The worst they're gonna say is no.
But then the other twin, we had to bid up on that one because it was a competitive situation.
Yeah, well, yeah, the cool part of the story, and I treat it as an example like this. So, I think a good method, all of the houses that I've looked at have been that price and up to about 180. I set a really good search parameters, and I look literally every day for 20 minutes to an hour. And I just think that's healthy. I used to think, well, there's got to be a trick to finding stuff. And eventually,
Scroll.
You
Just scroll up.
know enough people, that's the trick. And that's just going to take time. Meeting people. But yeah, so the process was we finally found. It was the day you went there. Oh yeah. So I go there with Daniel. As we're going into it, 2 people are leaving, and as we're leaving, 3 people are going in. And Daniel was real honest. He's like, "Hey, this is going to be a bid war." I was like, "Oh, cool." We did not win, but the person who did win ended up overbidding. They got
$200,000.
and then they just immediately backed out. There was some water damage. Whoever had the house beforehand tried to do their own pipe work. We found numerous pipes that were no longer attached to where they were supposed to go, to include the sink of all of them. So in fairness, that would have been some form of a nightmare, but the repairs to make that happen were south of 5,000. So we're still doing great. We go back to bid. We bid 155, and I was the first one out of the gate back to that house, which is why our theory is that everyone kept calling like, no, we really like the people. We wanted to get 200 for this, but yeah, we got it for 155, and the repairs will still keep me way south of 200. So
but we think somebody felt like they overbid.
Right, yeah, they didn't want to pay.
And
for
for
a house
anybody
of water
who
damage.
has been picking up in a bad economy, we felt like righteousness won because somebody who was able to overbid people who actually wanted to live in the house, because we're moving it. And then they tried to back out on the deal. And that's why we thought they were trying to come back in on the deal and be like, well, we should check his records again. Because every single time the bank would come back, they're like, well, we really need this again. We're like, we've been over this 5 or 6 times, but it worked out incredibly well, and we're fixing up the house. It's going to be incredible.
It's going to be a gym.
Yeah, it's going to be a gym, and
especially in 2 years.
Yep.
So this is one. This was 3 units. We bought this 3 years ago. So this is an example of like cash on cash return. So it's 3 units. It was a duplex, up-down duplex, and a single-family home. Not in the greatest shape, but insides were fine. We paid $70,000 for all 3 units. It was listed. I don't know what it was listed for, but we paid $70,000 for all 3, and we paid cash because I found out at the time we couldn't put any type of loan on this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was two dwellings on one lot. So a conventional loan, like conventional 30-year fixed loan,
Single families.
it's a multifamily and a single family
Yeah, but if you set up two dwellings
on one lot.
yeah.
Yeah, so we could have.
Each dwelling will have to appraise for the total purchase price.
Okay, so we didn't go that route, and then I didn't know about commercial lending at that time. I don't know if they would do it. Maybe they portfolio it themselves. Regardless, we used my partner used his self-directed IRA and purchased the whole thing in cash. The rent was $1,520 for both total. So those were like $450 a piece, and that was $520, I think, or $620. Property management was $380, and the reason this was a lot higher than because I was managing it and I also had equity in the deal. So I was managing it myself, plus he was paying me like an equity payment because I found the deal. So I had no money. So I was just saying, give me something. So I was getting this plus some equity in the deal. So total cash flow was $1,140. We held it for 3 years. The total rent collected was $35,000, and then we actually sold it today for $90,000. So it's approximately $50,000 profit total in 3 years. So it's a 71% cash on cash return. Now people are asking me, what's long-term hold? Why'd you sell it, right? You want to keep rentals forever. This one's a little bit unique because it was a self-directed. This one wasn't it was out in Blue Ridge, way out there. It's like nothing around it. I never had any issue renting it out because whenever one tenant would leave, they have a friend that wants to live there, and we were charging $450 a month, so it's really cheap for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And it needed a lot of repairs. Like the windows were they're old style. Some of them had plexiglass in it. It was just very expensive to replace these windows. Everything worked fine, but it was like, all right, we can put $25,000 into it now, and then increase the rents to maybe like $700. Paint the outside, make it look nice. Maybe $700 for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, but it'll take us like 5 to 6 years to like recoup it. I'd rather just cash out now, and now we're trying to find something else to put it in because it is self-directed IRA, which means you don't get it. It just goes back into your IRA. So we want to reinvest it back out. But yeah, that's that one.
Do you think for cash flow purposes, this might be a deal where you might look back like, that's a lot of cash flow.
It is, and that was a big thing we had, but I didn't want to fix anything.
Are you thinking you're going to be using this for down payment on more rentals?
Yeah, we actually talked to my partner about that today.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were on the phone, and
We
we're
were
like, all right,
brainstorming on the way
it's like,
back
what are we
from
going to do
Nova.
with, like, now we have this money, what do we do with it? And so, yeah, because again, if it goes, he transfers his self-directed IRA and his regular IRA, he transfers them back and forth so he can invest it. But he goes, I don't like to, it's a process to transfer it back and forth. So he goes, I'd rather if I can find something next 3 months, I can reinvest it and then just let it grow out. So yeah, we're going to do something with it.
And I've got 2 properties in mind.
1031 is within a.
I don't know anything about the self-directed. He knows about that.
Well, it's all in a tax-free account, so I don't think you have to 1031. But I also have no idea what I'm talking about.
Because the rent collected was going back to the IRA. It wasn't going to him. We had to log into his IRA account and then put the money into the IRA. So he never saw this. He's personally never
His
was,
IRA balance went up, but how did you benefit from?
because I was charging him property management fees. So it was an expense coming out of the rent,
But a big property management fee.
property management fee.
Okay.
That's how I was getting paid.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I don't know anything. So there's going to be a self-directed or a self-directed IRA topic in a couple months. So I'm really hoping I can find someone that can come and talk about
we'll
it.
learn about it.
Well, I need someone to come and talk about it because I don't know anything about self-directed.
My self-directed IRA can definitely not buy a house yet.
Sorry. This is my favorite rental properties I have. This is in Southeast. I bought this in December. I bought it like this. It was beautiful. Like, I would move into this one. I don't know how to mute it. I'm sorry. But this is an example of like cash flow. It's really, really low. But I love the house. And the appreciation went up a lot just in the past 6 months or 9 months. And this is a long-term play, right? Like, I'm only making $98, probably less after everything. But I'm holding it because this will go up once they build Southwest. Aren't they building something over there?
Yeah, they got a redevelopment plan. But also, next year, rent will go up to, you'll be making $125
it might go
in
up,
rent.
yeah. So I didn't have pictures of it. That's why I put a video. But yeah, this is one of my favorite houses. This is an example, again, of low cash flow, but this is the long-term play, is this. So I'll stick with that. I'll break even to sell it in 3 to 5 years. or refinance or BRRRR it. I don't know. Right.
That house has the exact same floor as mine. Like, I mean, it's
It's like the old 4x4s. Yes, well, yeah, the 4x4 style. Yeah. So any questions about? I'm trying to respect y'all's time and not go too slow, but not go too fast.
Are y'all gonna do a topic of how to use other people's money at any point?
So next month is
How to find money.
how to be the bank, and how to find money. So it's going to be two people. It's going to be people. So I have in my community up in Nova, we have people who have tons of money, and the people that I borrow from, and all they want to do is just put their money to work for a percentage back, and then we have agreements, and then I borrow money, and then I pay them back.
Yep.
Next month, yeah. So
That
I have
means we'll see you next
both
month.
topics: how to find money and how to be money. Because a majority of owners right now have about $200,000 to $250,000 equity in their house. So majority of people I borrow from have HELOCs on their house from a couple years ago. So their HELOCs are really low percentages. So I'll pay back anywhere between, depending on timeline, like under 90 days, I pay back a 5% return on cash return. And then from 93 months to 6 months, I do 8.5%. 6 months to 9 months, I do 12%. And then 6 months to 9 months, 12%. And then 9 months to 12 months, I do, I think it's 15%, depending on the project, depending on what it is. And then I have a long-term investors who give their money for 5 years. And that's how I buy rentals. And I'll take their money for 5 years and pay them back a 10 to 12% interest-only payments a year, monthly payments over a year, and then I'll pay them their principal back in 5 years. So
on the short term, we do bridges for 60 to 90 days for 20 to 30%.
Oh yeah,
So that's a deal.
I know.
That's why they want to give him his money.
That's why. So quickly, we'll just talk about what's called. So these are the type of loans you can get when you're buying investment properties. So I call this the vanilla way. And chime in if I say anything wrong, because I'm not a lender. So. Right. So this is what I call the vanilla traditional way. You go to a traditional mortgage lender. You're looking at a 20% down payment, conventional 30-year fixed loan. You can't buy an LLC. You can only have up to 10 properties in your name with conforming loans. Oh. And you need about 6 months. PITI is principal, interest, taxes, insurance. So you need about, which is your mortgage payment. So they want about a 6-month reserve in your account for this sort of vanilla loan. I missed anything? Good. This I'm not so sure about.
Yeah, you get better rates if you put down 30.
Yeah, I know the more you put down, the better your rates are.
30% down, but lenders can go up to on investment up to 8.
Okay. So then this, the only example that I know it's more than just DSCR, but that seems to be the most fancy one right now that a lot of people are using. We just helped someone close on 2 of these 2 weeks ago. He's a home inspector, has a lot of cash, but writes everything off. So what a DSCR loan is, if you look at your fancy flyers. So DSCR loan, it qualifies the house, right? So you yourself, you don't have to show W-2s, your income. It qualifies the house, right? So a DSCR of 1 means that the mortgage is $1,000 and the rent is $1,000. So that's a DSCR of 1. So those are the terms on the bottom of that, or some of them look different. The DSCR 1 is 80% loan to value under $1.5 million, 65% loan to value above $1.5 million, max loan amount $3 million, no limit cash in hand, purchase rate and term cash outs, and your minimum credit should be 680. I'm sure every lender has different requirements for DSCR, and a lot of them do third source it. I don't know if many lenders carry that product in-house.
I know we don't, on the residential side of the bank, we don't have that. We may do that on the
Commercial side? Okay. So yeah, so every lender has different programs, different types of programs. So then you have DSCR of 99 to 80. So they will loan on a negative cash flow terms, right? But the terms are a little bit steeper and
And I doubt that you would probably do that too much here. Probably do
And
that
I
over
feel
on the
like-
West Coast.
yeah,
where
I don't know what that
appreciation's a
means.
whole lot more.
but the main thing is if you're cash heavy and you're a contractor or you're self-employed and you don't have the numbers on your W-2s, the DSCR loan doesn't qualify you, it qualifies the house.
Yeah, I can't get a mortgage at all. Like just a vanilla mortgage, like we're talking about. I can't do it because
I
on
can't
paper
either.
I don't make
Yeah.
anything. I'm broke on paper.
Does the home have to be inhabited? Like if you're
No.
trying to use it,
No, but you cannot buy it. You can't buy it.
You have to buy it as to
It
be a
is
rental.
It's an investment property. You can't buy it to live in it,
yeah, of course.
right?
But it doesn't have to have someone.
No, you can just no. The ones that we just closed on is a triplex and a duplex, and no one lived in them.
It just goes by what you can get for rent.
So the nice thing with DSCR is you can close in an LLC. So all of our properties are owned in an LLC. I don't have my name on anything.
So what are the pros and cons of LLC versus, I mean, obviously the biggest one is liability, right? But what are the actual pros and cons?
You got certain liability, certain tax benefits. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Income ratio on your consumer.
Yeah. Because I mean, I can't get approved for a whole lot because I've got like 3 or 4 houses in my name. And that was before I really knew what I was doing and started buying in LLCs. And so once I started buying in LLCs, all of that debt to income ratio doesn't affect me personally.
What are the instances where you wouldn't house with LLC?
If you want to do one of those vanilla loans where you're going to get a low rate at a 30% interest and it's going to be in your personal name, you can't get as good of a rate with a locked interest rate like that for 30 years with a DSCR loan that low.
And if you haven't bought any properties yet, or just have one house, I would eat up all the conventional style money you can until they say you can't do it no more. And then you have to start doing LLCs. But that's the biggest benefit is in the beginning.
And-
Actually, with rates rising the way they have, I've been in lending since like '95, and through the crash, ARMs were a big deal. ARM kind of what caused the crash.
I watched the Big Short yesterday.
Just this year, ARMs came back into play. And so we've been seeing a lot of people accepting 5-1 and 7-1. Our 7-1 ARM in our bank is like 0.5% lower than the 30-year fixed. And people are okay because it's a 7-year window.
And the difference is when you qualify, though, they qualify you for the higher interest rate, right?
On our 7-1 ARM, it's that start rate.
Oh.
So if it was a 5-1 ARM, it's start rate plus 2%. With 7-1, because it's so far out,
It's on start rate?
A lot of times that's a 7-1 with a 1% cap or something like that. So it can't go any higher than 1 or 2 or 3%, right?
I think with ours, the initial max adjustments too, and then periodic thereafter every year.
Yeah, so even when the 7 comes up, your risk is only whatever that cap is, 2%.
I mean, who keeps a mortgage for 7 years?
Yeah.
Nobody.
True.
Are there, with like a regular, like a property management, are you more or less protected from liability in the sense like an LLC, or you more protected from an LLC?
There's layers of protection with the property management company. A lot of them is just because we know the laws. Like we might know all the good faith housing laws and things like that. So we know how to keep you out of trouble.
And these are 30-year fixed, or the DSCR is a 30-year fixed program. It's not an ARM or it's not an adjustable rate. The DSCR loan is a 30-year fixed.
Is it balloon or is it a straight AM?
A straight AM.
You said the rates for DSCR was higher than
Yes.
Do
But
the
it-
rates- sorry,
No, go ahead.
do they vary from if you're doing it through an LLC and consumer, or the rates?
No, because the one that we just did, the both we did, he had to close it in LLC. Again, my wife is the lender, so I don't know too much about this. But from what I remember, he had to create an LLC and close it in the LLC.
Right, because you had a lot of debt.
Well, they don't check that.
Uh,
They don't check your personal debt.
But you have to have a minimum 680 score. So
They check your credit score.
So when they see your debt too.
No, because you're just doing a credit pool.
They might see it, but they just
Oh,
don't
they may,
base
but they
it
don't
off
ask
of
for your.
it.
Like, you don't have to.
On DSCR,
You don't have to turn in W-2s or anything. You don't have to
So
turn.
yeah, you don't have to show your income. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
So they're just going to do a credit pool and say, "What's your credit?" Okay, that's that. And then they're going to say, "What's the property address?" And then the appraiser does the rental, yeah, like they figure out what the fair market rent is for the area.
How do you do the majority of your properties? How do you buy them?
I use equity out of my other properties. I have a lot of properties. I don't think I have $1,000 out of my own pocket.
You just leverage what you have for other ones.
You just keep
Yeah.
rolling it forward, leapfrogging.
It's a good way to do it.
Yeah. This is a big question that a lot of people ask us. If I have $100,000, do I put $100,000 down on one house, or do I get a loan? There is no right or wrong answer, but in my opinion, real estate's one of the only industries you can 5 times leverage your money. So you can buy 5 houses, hypothetically. Again, there's other fees involved, but 5 houses with $100,000 as compared to 1 house with $100,000.
And then you got the devil's advocate side of that. You pay all cash, no contingencies. You can typically get a deal on it and then put a little bit of money into it, refinance out of it, and then you just roll that cash into something else.
Yep. Right. So there's no right or wrong. It's just what do you want to do?
Yep.
Correct.
I use a large equity line in multiple properties, and so when you make an offer, just make the offer in cash. And it's a HELOC loan, so all you got to do is call the lender and say, "Hey, wire, $300,000 to my lawyer's office next week, please." And it comes right out of a HELOC on multiple properties that you have equity on. That's the purpose why you want to keep properties for a long time, because then you get these HELOCs. You have a lot of properties involved, and then when you make an offer, it looks like cash. The lender sends the cash, but it's still a loan, and you call the lender, say, "Hey, it's closed. Oh, by the way, can you put a mortgage on these properties now?"
Who does a HELOC on investment?
About any in-house lender will do it.
And when it comes to banks like that, it's good to have a relationship with them. Like you just going out and finding a random bank, it'll be harder for you to do it. But if you've built that relationship with them and you have accounts with them, that your own money is in the account and you've got loans with them and you've built that rapport, it's a little easier.
When I first started, they questioned a lot. "Hey, what about this?" But now I just send them a text and say, "Hey, I just got a house that's put under contract. It's showing us cash. Can you wire money over to this lender?" And it's like I text the lender while I'm at a red light.
I would
You
say
pick
I
your
have
banks. My bank said it was against the rules too.
And every bank is different because there's some.
You go to a different bank, and you have a relationship with 3, 4, 5 banks, and make them all think that they're the only bank.
Oh, you play a you.
And Jonathan, the guy that was up there, I use him too. I have a HELOC with him. I use one of his. He has underlings. I use one of them to say a text, send him a text.
And like Jonathan, for instance, I think they portfolio their own loans, so they can kind of make their own
rules.
Not make their own rules. There's still rules that follow, but they can do things that maybe other lenders that sell the loans. The majority of lenders sell their loans, whereas they portfolio their own loans. So they can kind of play with the rates and.
Yeah. Ian, you had a question?
it's for Paul. When you're doing these HELOCs, like how is that cash in the offer? How is it not like a loan if it's not good loan?
Because it is cash.
It is cash.
It's
You're
cash.
pulling out $200,000 from the
If I wanna
house.
go, like I have a large HELOC. If I want to just go and get that money for vacation, I can just go to tell her, write me a check, so I can go to the Bahamas.
Don't use a HELOC for a vacation.
You got to buy a lot of more houses before you can do that again.
Yeah. Well, by then you won't need a HELOC for vacation.
So you using an NRV, would you say the majority of your rentals are to college kids at Radford or Tech?
No, it's 50-50. Yeah, and I keep it 50-50 too, because I don't never know how strong. Like during COVID, a lot of students started staying home. We have a really big developer in Blacksburg. She's building thousands of rental properties, thousands, and like I can't compete with that. And she's putting granite countertops and pools and tennis courts and junior slots.
Oh yeah, I already knew who you're talking about.
Yeah, and so like I try to keep it like about half, because I'm not gonna be able to compete with her. Her pockets are way deeper, and she's like Walmart. Like they'll just put the little guys out of business and then raise the prices later.
Do your rates ever change with like a HELOC? Like if you
It's tied to prime, 100% prime. Like if it's a point, if it goes up a point tomorrow, it's a point tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I refinance it back out. Just at my earliest convenience, I'll just call the lender and say, "Hey, I got this house over here paid for." They don't know what house I'm buying. It could have been the house I paid for yesterday. Say, "Hey, I got this house paid for. I want to go ahead and refinance it and pay it off." But your HELOC. Then every time you pay the HELOC off, the bank loves you. Like, "Oh, you just paid another loan off." Credit score just skyrocketed again.
So is that applied to the balance that you have drawn out? Like if the rate goes up tomorrow, it applies to that balance that you have out?
No,
Or does that
yeah.
balance stay?
So if I draw 200,000 out of my HELOC to buy a $200,000 house, right? And I close on it, or close in cash. The next day say, hey, Jonathan, I have this house over on 123 Main Street. It's worth 225,000. I could deal on it because they're only going to give you 20%, right? Or 240,000, whatever that 20% is. And they will go take a look at it. I'll get a loan and pay off my HELOC. It might take 2 months. It might take a month, so I might make a month or two HELOC interest payments. It's not that big a deal. It costs me $100 or something.
And sometimes when you get a HELOC, it depends on what the LTV is for that house. Like I know Member One they'll go up to 100% LTV on a property, but if you only borrow 80% LTV, you'll pay 4%. If you borrow up to 90, you'll pay 4.5. If you go all the way up to 100, you'll pay 5.
And they have terms: 10-year, 15-year, 20-year.
Appraise a house based on what a contract is. So you kind of just fudge the numbers, and all of a sudden, magically, the house appraises for those numbers.
I like magic.
It's like magic, and so it really doesn't cost me any money out of pocket to buy a house. Like I said, I haven't spent $1,000 out of my own pocket in decades.
So you said HELOCs are variable rate?
Yeah, the lender that I'm using, it adjusts prime, whatever. It's 8% right now. I'm paying 8%. I don't really care. As long as, like you said,
math
as
problem.
long as the rent pays the mortgage, I'll pay 12% or 20% or 10%, 3%, whatever it is. I just want the house.
One thing I learned recently about when you're looking for an interest rate on a loan, the lowest isn't always the best. Especially if it's going to be like short term. If you're going to buy it and flip it, you won't realize the benefit of a low interest rate long enough, or you'll be getting rid of it so soon. Like some lenders have specials where like it's a higher interest rate, but maybe they waive all the closing fees, or maybe they give you a $5,000 or $10,000 credit. So you have a higher interest rate, but maybe you get that 10,000, you put it in, improve it, and then use that to actually increase the equity in the property you just bought. And that's kind of true.
The problem really is a lot of us are so wrapped up in what the banks are charging or not charging. They're doing like we forget the whole purpose is to buy the house, get the house.
Oh, that was poetic. I really like that. Let's put that on a T-shirt.
The one thing that we've encountered, I was like, we've got a 2-year plan that, counting this year and the next, where they're going to be changing. We're going to be looking for 2 more doors, and I've watched a lot of stories and talked to a lot of people. I've really noticed that the buy and hold has an exponential growth strategy that you go from 1 to 2 to 5 a lot faster.
I went to 0 to 10 in 1 year.
Because you have that. Where,
I'm a fan of buy and hold.
yeah,
There's no talking me to selling one.
Yeah, and everyone has that same sort of like the first 2 work hard.
Yeah,
Plus,
and
for
the
me,
rest
it's
of
I got 2 kids. So for me, it's all
Yeah.
posterity's sake anyway. So I'm a buy and hold to give it to my kids later.
Yeah.
And so I'm buying them, and like Ford magazine just came out and said Zillow had a great article. They expect next year's appreciation rate to be 6%. U.S. historical average is 3% a year. So a $200,000 property is going to go up in value $6,000 a year. You're going to pay it down $6,000 or $8,000 a year. You're going to have $1 million in rental properties, and it goes up by 3%. It's $30,000. You have 20. You grow to $20 million, and like next year, if you had $20 million in real estate, you're just got a 7-figure salary just in appreciation next year.
Yeah. You ask any old school landlord, their biggest issue is that they didn't buy more
Yeah.
when they were younger.
Buy and hold, and then when you don't think you have enough, buy some more.
Mhm.
And if you're really just, like you said, a buyer said, you're just struggling with one, just sell the one you bought first. Or just go get a HELOC loan, borrow it out against that one property.
If we could refinance that one, we would have.
Yeah.
That's another thing. We had no exit strategy other than sell it, because we tried to subdivide it, but it's zoned A1, and Blue Ridge County or whatever was like, you have to have X amount of acreages to subdivide it. And I'm like, and it was 3 houses on 1 septic line, so that's another thing. That one was.
I got a HELOC loan on one property, and it's the worst property I have, and that's my get out of jail property. And if something happens, I'll HELOC the crap out of that. I'll pull every penny of it out and just tell the bank to get it. By then, I mean, I don't care about my credit really.
And the HELOC is tax free.
It's
Yeah,
interest rate,
'cause it's-
interest only.
it's debt.
all tax, all the
Well,
loans
I
are.
mean, you're not taxed on that.
Because it's debt, you're pulling out more debt.
Yeah, you can pay technically, you can pay yourself a salary for the rest, but if you have enough equity, and then draw it all out, and let the kids have all the loans, and let them spend 20 years paying it off.
Poor kids.
And then, so they become 35 with millions of dollars worth of real estate paid off, and then they draw all the equity out, so they retire and they give it to their kids, and they're 30, and they just keep on going and going and going.
All right, what we got next?
All right. I promise we're almost done.
Yeah, let's try and power through these next ones.
This is what everyone's waiting
Has everybody heard the BRRRR method?
for.
Yeah? No? Maybe? All right. So you buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat.
There's a lot of info on these slides, and we're not going to talk about all of them. I mean, we're not going to read everything. So basically, you buy, right? And in real estate, you make your money when you buy, right? That's when you really make your money, is when you buy it. Obviously, I just said that. You're not looking for best properties, looking for properties that need a little bit of work, right? But it has to be a good deal in the end. I tell everyone, hire a real estate agent. They're free for you to use. You can find a good one that has the time to help you. You know, ask them questions, see if they can pull some comps for you. It's hard to find one that will do that, but Daniel will. So
I know a good one.
He's got time.
It's over there in the red.
Oh, the one thing is you want to really make sure you understand what you're getting yourself into, right? You want to make sure the numbers are correct and that you're not getting yourself into something that you're not going to be able to refinance out of. I run all my numbers super conservatively, like as low as the one thing I learned from Rob, who's the owner of Grid, and he was like, you can never underprice a house. So price it to where you're basically making a little bit, but if you have to give it away because market crash or something happens, you can still make money at that minimum level. So I price all my flips in the sense of if I'm going to buy it and flip it, but if I have to refinance out of it because my timeline with my investor's running out, then I can BRRRR it, pull the money out, pay my investor back, and now it becomes my problem, not my investor's problem, right? So you want to make sure you run the numbers conservatively, just so you have wiggle room. You can cover rehab.
Rehab. You rehab the property. You got to make sure that you're not over rehabbing it, because you can definitely spend more money than what you'll be able to pay out, because a house is only going to be worth so much depending on where it's at. So if you dump $100,000 into, you buy a house for $100,000 and then you dump $100,000 into this house, but the ARVs in the area are only $200,000, then you're still going to have a whole lot of money left in the deal if you refinance it.
And again, these are for rentals. You're not buying these to flip. These are strictly for the BRRRR method, is to have a rental property. So again, what he said, don't over rehab it. Just look what other people have and rehab to what you need to do.
And then you rent it. So you put in a rent.
Really want to refinance a property with it that isn't occupied.
Yeah. So you find a tenant, put it. I've noticed that if you try to overprice it, it's going to sit there. You're going to lose more money. It's way easier just to put it at right at market rent or just a little bit below. That way you can get people in and out super quick. When I have a turnover, it's no more than 2 weeks, because I rent them for a good price. I'm not looking to hit gold every single time, because I'd much rather have somebody in there paying the mortgage. That way I'm not coming out of pocket next month because it's just sitting there because it's overpriced.
Besides Zillow rents, like, what do you use to figure out?
Oh, I don't ever look at Zillow rents. That's for sure. I use Bigger Pockets calculator, and I go in there to their rent estimator. And then also, I don't use the number that it spits out, because that's wrong too. But it comes up with a ton of comps, and that's what I base it off of.
That's a paid service.
Yeah. What was that?
Is that a paid service?
Bigger Pockets?
I think you have 3 calculators that you can use, like 3 times or something like that, if you're not a paid member. But I'm a pro member, so I get to use all the calculators all I want.
With the discount, if you watch one of the podcasts, it's like 20, it's like
Yeah.
$19 for a year, but it's worth it to even that calculator to slide and try to create a deal or see what like property what it would take to make it a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
and then you can play with it, fudge like with the interest rate, what you might get it for, and this and that. But it shows you everything how you might gain value over the years too.
Mhm.
But then also like you can print it off, like so if you want to go get maybe a loan or private money,
Yeah,
you
take
can
that
show
to the
this is where
bank.
I'm getting these numbers from, and it's worth it. This
Yeah,
deal.
Bigger Pockets, if no one's ever heard of it, it's a good resource if you want to get started investing. A lot of podcasts, a lot of tools. I don't know if they have contracts or blank contracts and stuff.
They do.
I don't know.
I think
Okay.
so.
My partner has it. I don't use it.
Or if you want to figure out rents, you just call a property manager, like that one in Radford. I sent him the property, and he spat it back out to me in 30 seconds.
This looks scary, I know. So I have this rent estimator that some people use. It's just one that I've heard people use.
Thanks for coming.
It has a really nice decision thing right here, right? So all of these are, you set your targets for what you want. And then as you fill in all the information, all of these numbers change. And this turns yes, no, yes, no. So if you want your, let's say your cap rate to be 7%, right? As you're putting in these numbers, this number will change with whatever is connected to it. And then it'll basically, if you hit your target, that'll turn green and say yes. If you hit your target, it'll say no. And then you basically decide, you know, is it good enough to purchase, or is there more yeses than nos? You know, do I like what it says? Very intuitive. We'll email this out to everyone that when we email the slideshow out. But it is a lot of information. There is easier ways to do it. I just know some people love to be very analytical. And so this is one that we use to share it with people and say, all right, if you want to be super analytical, here's this. If you want,
This is just what my brain looks like while I'm running deals in my head.
yeah. If you want an easier one, I'm sure you can Google. There's probably tons of them. Just Google rent calculator and one will pop up. And so like for my flips, we made one. It was really just like 10 lines, super simple. This is a lot. But again, some people like it. So there's that.
And then you refinance to pull the equity out. And a perfect BRRRR means you're pulling out all the equity that you put, or all the money that you put into it. For acquisition and renovations, you're pulling out at least 100% of that. Now, that used to be a whole lot easier back when we had 2% interest rates. Now, if you do a refinance and you still leave 20 grand in the deal, that's may not still pretty good deal, because it may have cost you 60 grand to buy it outright. So
anything below
you're still getting
20%
a whole
you pull out, you're still winning, because it would have cost you more than 20%, or it would have cost you 20% to buy it.
Yeah. Right.
So if you leave in 10%, you're still getting it for 10% less than if you actually had to buy the property the conventional or non-conventional way. Then the best parts repeat.
Yep. And then you do it all
Take
over
all
again.
the money and do it all over again. Pretty much it.
All right. And then let's.
So this is one that we did. This was one of our rentals that we paid $51,000 for it. The down payment was that. This is what we rented for. That was our mortgage. I know it's crazy, right? This was 5 years ago. I paid my investor $250, so my cash was $602. We just closed on it last week. It cost me 15 grand to renovate. My appraisal, which I was shocked, my appraisal value came back at 180, and I wired it today. Paid myself today. We cashed out $74,000. My mortgage increased. I increased the rent, and I'm still cash flowing $514. But I just pulled out $74,000. And I'm going to Disney World. Huh? No kidding.
Yeah, especially when you got kids.
Well, my daughter's 2, so I have 1 more year to go until she's not free anymore, so we're using it. But again,
So you just close on this after, I guess, letting it season with the lender.
This is the refinancing pulling out.
yes, this is yeah. So my wife, we refinanced the conventional way and pulled out that.
Now what he's going to, what he's going to be doing is he's going to be reinvesting that $74,000
Into Disney World. Yeah.
Probably.
That's some pricey real estate there.
Right. Yeah, so we're looking at bigger ones. We're going to look at some bigger ones. But the one thing that, and this may be the wrong way of looking at it, this is how I look at it. The way that I've started investing these past years is I don't use it in my own money. I've not used a penny of my own money. Any of my flips and my rental properties, I've used zero. So part of me is thinking, we're just gonna sit on it. Like, winter's coming, especially for my day job. I'm a realtor by day, right? So it's like, as the market ebbs and flows, who knows what's gonna happen, right? So I'd rather just sit on this, but there's still people with millions of dollars out there that want to invest it and get better returns. So I can use other people's money for it.
Does it take you a while to get comfortable with that? Because one thing when you take out a loan, for some reason that doesn't bother me, but like owing somebody money seems.
Oh, it sucks.
That's super nerve-wracking.
Like, yeah.
It's pretty high pressure.
So I had an investor. We're closing on a flip this week, and my investor wired me $225,000 the other day, and I was like, oh my gosh, now I have this money. Again, it happens every time. This isn't I bought 6 homes this year so far, and it's like every time I borrow money, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what if I don't sell it? What if something happens? But it's all backed by real estate, right? I run my numbers conservatively. So my backup plan, as we all talked about, if something happens, we're just going to refinance out of it because we're paying cash for it. So it's no mortgage. We're getting it for really cheap, and we're just going to refinance out of it, right? So I know, and a lot of my investors trust me because I've done this. I've done it more than a few times, and they know that I run stuff conservatively. I've always paid back my investors. Even during COVID, I was paying investors out of my own pocket when rent wasn't being paid because tenants were like, I don't got to pay rent because the president said I don't have to. So I was paying my investors back out of our business account because I'm like, they gave us money. I have to give it back to them.
That relationship is worth more than that.
Oh, yeah. Now we have millions of dollars. I can make a phone call and, there's one opportunity, $900,000. I made a call and she goes, when do you need it by? That doesn't ask me questions. Just trust, right? So I'll do whatever I have to do to make sure my investor gets their money back. That's super important to me.
And they're not a lien against that property?
It depends. So we don't put them as. It depends.
Depends on the deal. Sometimes they're first lien holder, and then
if we pay cash for the whole property,
guarantee.
They buy it outright, then we put them as first lien holder as their protection. I have no problem with that. But if we use their money as a down payment, title company, and our title attorney is a personal friend of mine, and he'll sometimes say like, the big lender doesn't want to have another loan on it. So if we record this and record that, they may question it. So we have a promissory note that's called a deferred judgment note, meaning that it's a unilateral contract. So if something happens and I don't pay my investor back and we don't talk about it, just disappear, they can unilaterally go to court with that piece of paper and I'm already guilty. So there's no me fighting my case. I'm guilty. And again, the best thing for that is what in their minds, well, in reality, the property's still there. So if they need to get their money back, let's sell the property. Or I'll have to sell the property, or someone will sell the property. And they'll get their money back that way. So everything's backed by real estate. That's where it's the last slide. This is the one we bought in March. This was like best buy I ever had so far. So I paid $147 Old Southwest, like on Marshall Avenue, right across the street from the park, or from the bridge. So I paid $147,000 for it. Down payment was $31,000. It's rented for $2,400. My mortgage is $1,100. I pay the utilities on this one because this is one of my rooming houses. So my utilities are around $500 a month. I pay property management $200. Pay my partner $300, and I make $300 a month. Again, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of money going out, but I put 0 into the deal, so I don't care.
Infinite return.
Infinite return.
Is the rent as high as it is because it's the
Rooming house? Yeah. I don't know what they rent for in Old Southwest.
That one? Not for $2,400.
rental?
Lower?
Oh yeah.
That's a room rental. Yeah, that's $600 a room. But on this street, there's been 2 or 3 that have sold for $400,000. One for $395, one for $405, one on Day Avenue, one for like $415 or something like that. So it needs about $100,000 in renovations to bring it up to life, right? Like it looks nice, but these tiles are all
Jacked up.
These are old cabinets just painted. It's fine for a rental. Everything works. It's clean. It's nice. But if I want to sell it to someone as a livable home, it wouldn't sell for that much. So if I put $100,000 into it, I can flip it for probably $400,000. So my total all in would be 247, but I would borrow that, so I'd pay $10,000 back on that. So my all-in would be what? 247, 257, about, and then I'd sell it for 400-ish. We're making up numbers now, but sell it for 400. I'd make around 130 to 150,000 dollars, and I put zero into it. I borrow everything. But then that's the question: do I cash out, or like do I sell it, or do I? I don't know why I put cash out. I think I'm gonna say keep it.
I just like to use my own equity, so I don't have to pay 10% for private equity.
I haven't gotten that far yet. Okay, I'm not
Baby
there yet.
steps, baby steps.
I'm not there yet.
We'll be like you one day.
That's the buying.
Yeah, one day we'll be like you. But for right now, and there's different types of loans. You can go hard money. Hard money's cheaper, but my investors it's convenient. They trust me. I don't have to give them much information. The property, what the plan is, and they'll say yes or. And most of them, never had anyone say no yet, but they'll just say okay, right?
Win for them, win for you.
Yeah, hard money. There's a lot more hoops to jump through, but it's cheaper. So, and it's monthly holding costs. With a lot of my investors, I have no monthly holding costs and no points up front, but I pay more at the end. Hard money, you have points up front and monthly holding costs, but you may not pay as much. But I don't want to deal with monthly payments to someone and money up front when I want to focus on getting the house renovated and sold.
Is this a market deal right here?
This is on market.
How much equity do you have in this now?
I have no idea.
Now you probably got.
I mean, the appraisal came back at 170 something.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's so cheap.
60.
It blew my mind. Like
For me, I would renovate it, grab the equity, and keep the equity.
yeah, but do you think the rent's? I mean, how much do you think? Like if I cash out refi?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of mortgage payment?
Renovate it, keep the renter in there, then you have an equity stream.
See, that's why we do this. We'll talk. I'll ask you what that means. So renovate it, and then cash out.
Yeah, and then keep it. Then you have a HELOC on that property that you use over and over and over again. And
So not a refinance,
A
a
HELOC.
HELOC.
Okay.
I feel like the next month is going to be HELOC.
I mean, it might be because that's a way of getting money.
Really good. No, I admit more even basic. I'm just nodding. Yeah, HELOC. HELOC. Kind of like, yeah, 2 plus 2. It's more what that one is.
All right, then I'm going to go get your amortization schedule.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. I watched some videos.
You say you're in Northern Virginia,
Mhm.
but why are you buying so much in Roanoke?
Because it's cheap.
You ever seen the prices?
I'm born and raised here, so I know this area. I have my family's here. I have a sphere here. Yeah, my parents are here. My wife's parents are here. I do have people. I have a sphere.
Folks from Black Rock, China,
I haven't. I mean,
are coming in.
I haven't seen. I don't. Possibly, I don't know. I haven't seen. I haven't really paid attention. I don't know if they're coming to Little Roanoke, and I mean they bought Tanglewood, so they might be buying bigger stuff around here. Seen it? Oh, so I know in like Nova there are specific areas, McLean, Vienna, the higher end, that certain realtors have connections with, like Saudis. People from those areas that are buying, they're calling them saying, hey, I got $3 million property in McLean, and they'll come in and buy it. But in Roanoke, I don't really know.